Hey guys, Grass Study here. Today I'm going to talk about picking out grass seed. So if you're doing a renovation, especially, this is really important. If you're doing an overseed, it's less important. With an overseed, you really want to match whatever seed you have already. So, I mean, whatever you've got is what you should keep using, otherwise it's going to look different. When you're doing a renovation, it's important to look at the labels. I got the seed that I'm using right here. Took pictures of all the labels at local stores today, so I'll read the details, but if you look at them, they'll all have a label on the back and it'll list the specific varieties of grass that are in it, and it'll also list what percentage is weeds, other crop, inert matter, and whether or not there's noxious weeds. Now, the obvious one is weeds. This seed right here has 0% weed seed. The way they know this is they actually have labs that test the seed in batches. So I mean, technically there could be some weed seed, but when they did the testing for the weeds, they didn't find any, which is a good sign. Now, the interesting thing is the other crop percentage. This is sod quality, so it has 0% other crop. Now, when I start reading off the other labels, you're going to see that other grass seeds do have other crop. And in inert matter, this has 0.78%. Now that's like, you know, sticks, dust, stuff that doesn't grow, but just, it's part of the process, it ends up in there. And then it'll even say what the date was when it was tested. So this was January of this year, which 6 months ago. And then it says when to sell it by, which is a year from now. So, yeah, a year. All right, I got messed up with the year dates. All right, so let's look at a popular name brand that I found at the local store. Now, I'm not going to say the name brands because there's questionable stuff on YouTube about negative reviews. So these guys have big budgets and I don't want my video taken down. But the point is, I'll read off percentages, show you what to look for, and then you look at the bag that you're going to buy. Because even from crop to crop and bag to bag, you might find a better batch of seed at your stores than I do. So, alright, so here's one. It says other crop seed 0.79%. Now that's almost 1% of the seed is other crop seed. Now that means it could be different types of grasses. It could be corn. I mean, chances are it's not corn, but it could be any other growing crop that's not a weed. Now what you have to understand is one of the most problematic weeds in a home lawn, or any lawn really, is grassy weeds. So technically they're grasses, they're not labeled as weed seed, but other crop seed could be grassy weeds that you don't want in your lawn. So if you're going for a renovation, this is important to look at. This one actually has a lot. Again, sod quality, shouldn't have any. Weed seed, now this one, right there on it, it says 0.1% weed seed. So depending on what you get, whether it's Kentucky bluegrass or tall fescue, it can be between 500,000 to 2 million seeds per pound. So think about that. If it's at the 1 million mark and 0.1% is weed seed, well, 0.1% of a million is like 10,000 or 1,000. Even if it's 100, would you go around your lawn planting 100 weed seeds? No, you'd be like, what are you doing? Get off my lawn. So it's important to look at that. And it's also important to think about the math there, because, you know, when you look at a 0.1%, that's like nothing, but that's a big deal, especially that it says weed seed right on it. Inert matter, this one's got a coating. It's got 5% coating. Now, the coatings, it's debatable. Some people swear by them, some people think, well, don't waste your money. But from what I've heard is the amount of weight the coating uses up, it makes up for it in actual germination rate. So if it's a 50% coating, 50% seed, you think, oh, I need twice the amount of seed. No, because generally speaking, that seed will grow twice as much in the lawn, because this, even the good stuff, it says what the germination rate is, and so not all the seeds will germinate. Some of them just won't, because that's how nature works. So the coatings, it's not a terrible thing. Me personally, I'm going to use other tactics to make sure it stays wet, but if you're just a new homeowner, the ones with the coatings aren't terrible. Alright, here's a different label. This one has, again, 0.01% weed seed, 0.119% other crop seed. So this one's got less other crop, which is good, but it still has some. So again, that ends up to 0.2%. So if you get a big bag like this, 0.2% of that is weeds. That's not good. Alright, here's another brand. This one, weed seeds, 0.01%, so even less weed seeds, which is great, but 0.17% other crops. So this is still better, but still not perfect. So I think I got one more here. So this one has 0.01% weed seed, 0.25% other crop seed. So there you go. That's, I won't say the brand names, but I will say the ones that I took pictures of on my phone, all were at the same store, and it pretty much was the more money you paid for the seed, the less weed and other crop seed was in it. So don't be cheap, because you'll end up paying more if you have to re-renovate it later, and you'll end up paying more if you're using all these chemicals. So that's why I really recommend, if you're doing a renovation, go with the sod quality. Alright, now let's talk about the types. I would definitely go with Kentucky Bluegrass, because it repairs itself. Now, tall fescue doesn't repair itself, and the problem with that is, first of all, if you ever spray a weed with glyphosate, it's not going to fix itself. You're going to have to overseed. If the grass ever dies, you're going to have to reseed. With bluegrass, it will fill itself in, and you can move plots around and all that stuff, plugs and stuff. And then another thing to note is Kentucky Bluegrass, it'll drown quicker if it gets drought, but it will last longer after it goes dormant. Whereas tall fescue, once it turns brown, you've got a very short window where it needs to get some water, or it's just going to die. And then you got to overseed. And so I don't see the point in all that. Some people love the look of it, so you could try. Some people I know have done little pots of each type and then picked that way. But me personally, it's hard to not recommend. It's hard to recommend anything but Kentucky Bluegrass, just because it makes more sense. When you're looking at the types of Kentucky Bluegrass, if you go with a box store, you're kind of stuck with the mixes they make. But if you go to a store where you can pick out your own seed, Seed Superstore had like a bunch of varieties. And I'll put a link, but there's a NTEP. Well, they do testing, and they test all the different varieties for different things like drought stress, what's it called? People running around on it, all sorts of things, color, height, and then they do it in different areas. So what you can do is you can actually look at the closest test site to your area, see what varieties do well for your area and for what you need, and that's how you can find out. For me, I needed some Bewitched because I got some shade back here. I did Blue Velvet because that's really good in this area. And I forget the reason for Prosperity, but I researched this, I promise, guys. But anyway, so you want to just look at them, Google the different varieties. They'll say different things. If you struggle with a certain type of lawn disease, if you always get brown patch, then look at how it did with brown patch. If you always struggle with, compaction, lots of high traffic, get one that does well with that. If it's full sun, get one that does well with that. And I guess that's the end of my video. My neighbor started up his lawnmower, so there you have it. Some things to look at when you're picking out the grass seed.